Imani Reynolds knew two things for sure. Her living room was her peace, and her husband was her favorite problem. Darius King was stretched out on the couch like he paid rent twice, one arm behind his head, the other holding the remote like he owned the whole block. The TV was on, but neither of them cared what was playing. Not when Darius had decided tonight was going to be one of those nights. He shifted closer, rested his head right on Imani's chest, and went still like he was listening to something sacred. Imani blinked down at him.
Sir, what are you doing?
Darius smiled without opening his eyes. Shh. He pressed his ear a little deeper, dramatic for no reason.
Shh, your heartbeat calling my name.
Boy, my heartbeat is telling you to get up before I start charging rent.
Darius popped up with a fake offended gasp. Wow, so this is how love dies? Over rent? Over your big head, Imani shot back, laughing. And just like that, the couch turned into a battlefield. Darius lunged for her waist. Imani squealed and slipped off the cushions, and suddenly 2 grown adults were sprinting in circles around the coffee table like they were in a cartoon. He nearly bumped the lamp. She nearly tripped over a throw pillow.
Hey, come back here! You know you can't outrun me!
And when Darius finally caught her, he did it with that same goofy grin that made Imani forget she ever tried to take life so seriously. That was their marriage. Jokes, playful insults, and the kind of friendship that made the world outside feel smaller. Because the truth was, they didn't start like a fairy tale. Back then, Darius wasn't her husband. He was the man who showed up too often, the man who appeared in her evenings like a routine, always with a joke, always with patience, always with this calm confidence that didn't ask permission to care. Imani remembered the first time he started coming around consistently. She'd been stressed, tired, carrying her problems like grocery bags that were cutting into her hands. And Darius had just stayed. Not in a pushy way, in a steady way. He'd sit, he'd listen, he'd make her laugh until she forgot why she was annoyed. So when Darius first proposed,
Will you marry me?
Imani did what she thought made sense.
Darius, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm just not ready.
She said no. Then she said no, again, and again. Not because he wasn't good, but because she didn't feel that instant, dramatic spark she'd been taught to expect. In her mind, Darius was safe. Darius was her friend, and she was scared of choosing something safe and then regretting it. Her best friend, Keisha Brooks, sharp-tongued, loyal, and allergic to nonsense, had looked her dead in the eye the day she turned him down and said, "You're scared of safe love. That's your problem." Meanwhile, Darius had walked away calm, but later that night he'd sat with his older brother Marcus King, serious, protective, the kind of man who didn't sugarcoat anything, and admitted quietly, "I'm willing to wait. I'm not rushing her." Now, years later, Imani stood in her living room, catching her breath, while Darius leaned against the wall, grinning like he'd won. Imani picked up her phone and opened a text draft to Darius. Something soft, something flirty, something she'd never say out loud. She stared at it, then deleted it. Darius raised an eyebrow. "You texting your boyfriend?" Imani rolled her eyes. "Go sit down." But before she could move, her phone buzzed again. This time not a text, she started. A direct message from an unknown account. "You don't know who you're dating." The following morning, Imani woke up with that message still sitting in her chest, like unfinished business. She tried to act normal, brushed her teeth, tied her robe tighter, even pretended the sunlight coming through the curtains wasn't too bright for the mood she was in. But her phone was on the kitchen counter, like evidence, screen dark, silent, waiting. When Darius wandered in, sleepy and handsome, and entirely too comfortable, Imani watched him like she was seeing him for the first time. He kissed her cheek. "Morning, beautiful." Imani forced a smile. "Morning." But the second he reached for the coffee, Imani slid her phone toward Keisha on FaceTime, camera angled just right so Keisha could read the DM. Keisha's eyes widened. Then she let out a low laugh with no humor in it. "Oh yeah," she said. "Drama is cooking, and you know I don't miss when the pot starts boiling." Imani swallowed. "What if it's just some troll?" Keisha shook her head. "Baby, trolls want attention. This message wants damage." Imani ended the call, but not the feeling. She waited until Darius was leaning on the counter, sipping coffee like he didn't have a care in the world. Then she asked, light and casual, like she wasn't holding her breath. "So?" Imani tapped her nails on the counter. "You ever talk about your ex named Jade?" Darius paused mid-sip, just a half-second too long. He lowered the cup slowly. "Jade?" he repeated, like the name needed time to land. "Why you asking about her?" Imani shrugged, pretending she didn't notice the way his shoulders tightened. "Just asking." Darius gave a small laugh, too quick, too smooth. "Babe, that's old, that's nothing." Nothing. But Imani's instincts didn't believe nothing when it came with a pause, a dodge, and that careful look in his eyes like he was choosing his next words. Darius reached for her hand. "Imani, don't let people plant stuff in your head." Imani pulled her hand back gently. "I'm not. I'm just asking." Darius kissed her forehead, like that would erase the question. "It's nothing." And that should have been the end of it. But later that day, when Imani and Darius stepped into a busy shopping plaza, sunlight, music, people everywhere, life decided to answer Imani's question without permission. Because she saw her, a woman near the entrance, dressed like she had somewhere important to be. Sleek hair, glossy lips, confidence sharp enough to cut glass. Her eyes locked on Darius like she recognized him before she even got close. She walked up, smiling sweet, like she wasn't carrying history. "Darius?" she said, voice smooth. "Wow, look at you." Darius froze, just for a moment. Then he forced a smile. "Jade." So that was her, Jade Simmons, the ex with a face too pretty for the kind of trouble her energy carried. The way she looked at Darius wasn't friendly. It was familiar, possessive, like she still felt entitled to space in his life. Jade's gaze slid to Imani, and her smile widened. "Oh, you must be Imani," Jade said warmly. But something in her tone felt like a warning dressed up as a compliment. "You're even prettier in person." Imani held her smile in place. "Nice to meet you." Darius cleared his throat. "We were just—" "Of course," Jade cut in, still smiling. "I won't keep y'all." She stepped back, but before turning away, she leaned closer to Imani, just enough to make the moment private. "Take care of him," Jade murmured. "Men like Darius, they don't ever really forget." Then she walked off like she'd just said something sweet. Darius exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. Imani looked up at him and saw it. His jaw clenched, his eyes tense, his whole body slightly on alert. "Darius," Imani said softly. "That's nothing?" He opened his mouth, then closed it again. "She's just from the past." That night, long after Imani went to bed, Jade posted a throwback song on her story, one of those love songs that sounded like memory and regret. And somewhere in the dark, Jade's voice floated through a phone call, low and satisfied. "It's time." A few days after that accidental run-in, Imani tried to convince herself she was doing too much. She told herself Jade was just a name, just a face, just a past chapter Darius had already closed. She told herself marriage meant trust, not turning into a detective every time life got inconvenient. But her spirit didn't settle, because Darius was still Darius, sweet, funny, attentive. Yet now there was a thin layer of carefulness in him, like he was stepping around a crack in the floor and hoping Imani wouldn't notice. So Imani did what she always did when her heart felt loud. She got quiet. She folded laundry with extra focus. She washed dishes that were already clean. She prayed, not the dramatic kind, just the soft kind under her breath. God, let me see clearly, not through fear, through truth. And while Imani wrestled with her instincts, Darius decided to fight back the only way he knew how, by making her smile. He planned a surprise friendship date. Nothing fancy, nothing loud, just a bright Saturday afternoon, a little cafe with big windows and good music, and that comfort food menu that tasted like peace. When they sat down, he slid a small gift bag across the table. Imani peeked inside and laughed. Socks? Darius grinned. Not just socks, soft socks, because your feet be freezing and you still want to act like you don't need me. Imani rolled her eyes, but her smile came easier than it had all week. You are ridiculous. I'm your ridiculous, Darius said, leaning in. For a moment it felt like them again. The teasing, the warmth, the safety. Then Imani asked the question she'd been holding back. Why you tense when she showed up? She said quietly, stirring her drink. Darius's smile softened. Because I didn't expect her. That's it? He nodded. That's it. Imani studied him. So you and Jade, it ended clean. Darius leaned back, exhaled. Imani, don't do that. Don't do what? Ask. It's nothing, he repeated, and this time the words landed heavier, like a door closing. Imani didn't argue. She simply nodded and let the conversation move on, but something in her chest stayed unsettled, because when a man says, it's nothing too often, it starts sounding like something. That night, Imani sat on her bed with Keisha on speakerphone, voice low so Darius wouldn't hear from the living room. Keisha didn't sugarcoat anything. Friend, I'm telling you right now, Jade is not popping up for no reason. Imani sighed. I don't want to become paranoid. You're not paranoid, Keisha snapped. You're perceptive. There's a difference. And let me guess, he's being sweet but not being clear? Imani didn't answer. Keisha huffed. Exactly. After the call, Imani did what she shouldn't have done. She searched Jade online, and what she found wasn't proof, but it was patterns. Too many quotes about what's mine will return. Too many captions about women stealing husbands. Too many comments from people hyping her up like she was proud of being trouble. Imani locked her phone and stared at the ceiling. Meanwhile, across town, Jade sat in her car outside a small gym, watching a couple laugh as they walked out hand in hand, then looking down at her phone with a slow smile. She wasn't just watching Imani, she had information, and Imani didn't even know who it was coming through. Back at home, Loretta dropped by with a container of food like she always did when she wanted to check on her daughter without announcing it. She hugged Imani tight and whispered, Love is sweet, baby, but be wise. Imani swallowed hard. Mama, I'm trying. Loretta pulled back, eyes steady. Trying is good, but clarity is better. Later that evening, Darius was washing the dishes when his phone rang. Unknown number. He wiped his hands, answered, and his face changed instantly. His voice dropped. Hello? A woman's voice came through the speaker, shaky and soft. Darius, I need you, she whispered. Please. Darius's eyes flicked toward the hallway where Imani was, and for the first time in days, he didn't look calm. He looked trapped. The following evening, Darius moved through the house like a man carrying something fragile and hoping it didn't shatter in his hands. Imani was in the bedroom folding clothes, pretending she didn't notice how many times he checked his phone, pretending she didn't hear the quiet sigh he kept swallowing back. When he finally walked in, keys in hand, his smile looked practiced. Babe, he said, too casual, I gotta step out for a bit. Imani didn't look up right away. For what? Darius lifted one shoulder. Marcus called. Something came up. I'm just going to handle it real quick. Imani paused mid-fold, eyes narrowing slightly. You going to see your brother? Darius met her gaze and nodded like it was nothing. Yeah, I'll be back. Something in Imani's spirit didn't like the way he said it. Soft, smooth, like he was trying not to wake a sleeping problem. But she didn't argue. Not yet. She watched him leave, listened to the door click, and sat on the edge of the bed, with her hands still on the shirt she'd been folding. Lord, don't let me be blindsided. Across town, Darius pulled into a quiet parking lot outside a small lounge. Not the kind of place you take your wife, not the kind of place you describe as nothing. He sat for a moment, staring at his steering wheel like it could talk him out of his own decisions. Then he got out. Jade was already there, sitting in her car with the window halfway down, face lit by the glow of her phone. When she saw him, her eyes softened instantly, perfectly timed. Darius, she breathed, like she'd been waiting her whole life instead of a few minutes. He stayed standing. Jade, what is it? Jade stepped out slowly, arms crossed over her chest like she was cold or wounded or both. I didn't want to call you, she said, voice trembling. But I needed closure. I needed to hear it from you, to your face. Darius swallowed. We're done. We've been done. Jade's laugh was small, bitter. And you think that's easy for me? She stepped closer. You moved on so fast, Darius, like I didn't matter. You did, he said quickly, then regretted it the second the words left his mouth. Jade's eyes sharpened with satisfaction, but she covered it with tears. See? You still care. I care because I'm not a monster, Darius snapped, then softened his tone. But I'm married. I love my wife. This, whatever this is, has to stop. Jade lifted her phone like she was wiping her face, but the screen was angled just right. Recording. Darius didn't notice. You used to look at me like I was your whole world, Jade whispered. Now you look at me like I'm a mistake. You're not a mistake, Darius said, frustrated. But you're a chapter that's closed. Jade stepped in closer, too close, forcing a moment that could be misunderstood by anyone watching. Then say it, she pressed. Say you never loved me. Darius's jaw tightened. Don't do this. Right then, Imani's call came through. Darius's eyes widened, his chest tightened. He answered too fast, voice controlled. Hey, babe. Imani's tone was calm, but it carried weight. Where are you? Darius glanced at Jade, at her waiting smile. Then he lied without thinking. On my way to Marcus, he said. Traffic. Imani paused. Okay. But that okay wasn't soft. It was quiet, dangerously quiet. Darius ended the call, looking sick with regret. Jade, I have to go. Jade's lips curved. Of course, she said sweetly. Go be great. As he turned, Jade lifted her phone again, this time not to record, to take a photo, a quick snap from the perfect angle, Darius in the frame. Jade close enough to look personal, the background blurred just enough to hide details. An hour later, while Imani sat on the couch staring at nothing, her phone buzzed. A notification, a new post, and there it was. A photo online, Darius and Jade, captured like a secret. Imani's stomach dropped so fast it felt like the floor moved, and the caption underneath? Just 3 words. Some things return. The next morning, Imani didn't even taste her breakfast. She sat at the kitchen table with her phone in her hand, the screen glowing like it wanted to burn a hole straight through her peace. She had stared at that photo so long, her eyes felt dry. Darius standing there, Jade pressed close enough to look like a memory he never let go of. And the caption? Some things return. Imani's chest tightened, but her face stayed still. No tears, no screaming. just that quiet that comes when your heart decides it's done, begging to feel safe. When the front door opened, Darius walked in carrying fake calm like a shield. He tried to smile. "Morning, babe." Imani slid the phone across the table without saying a word. Darius's eyes dropped to the screen, and the color left his face. "Imani, listen." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't even blink hard. "Explain it." Darius moved closer, palms up, voice urgent. "I met her for closure. That's it. I swear nothing happened." Imani's lips twitched, almost a laugh, but there was no joy in it. "Closure?" she repeated softly. "And the lie? What was that for?" Darius swallowed. "I didn't want you to overthink." Imani stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. "So you lied to protect me from feeling what I'm feeling right now." Darius stepped forward. "Baby, I'm sorry, I messed up, but please." "Don't." Imani held up a hand, calm but final. "Don't touch me right now." Darius froze. Imani stood, slow and steady, like her body was moving before her heart could collapse. "You know what hurts the most?" she said, voice still low. "It's not even Jade showing up. It's you choosing secrecy like you're not my husband." Darius's eyes glistened. "I'm your husband. I love you." "And yet you still lied," she answered, quieter. "That's what love doesn't do." Keisha showed up mid-morning like she felt something in the air. She took one look at Imani's face and didn't ask questions. She simply said, "Don't beg for the truth. If he respects you, he'll bring it without you bleeding for it." Darius tried to talk again, but Imani's spirit had already made a decision. She grabbed her bag, walked to the door, and turned back one last time. "I choose peace," she said, just one sentence, and it landed like a slammed door. Darius followed her outside, barefoot on the porch, like he forgot how the world worked. "Imani, please, don't do this." Imani didn't yell. She didn't curse him out. She just got in her car and drove away, hands trembling on the steering wheel, jaw clenched so tight it hurt. Before she even made it to the end of the street, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A message popped up like poison. "He came to me willingly." "Don't embarrass yourself." Imani's throat tightened. She didn't respond. She just blocked the number with shaking fingers and kept driving. Back at the house, Darius stood in the living room, staring at his own reflection in the dark TV screen, looking like a man who finally realized his small lie wasn't small at all. Loretta's words echoed in his mind. If you love her, change, not perform. Darius sank to his knees, right there by the couch, where he'd joked about her heartbeat the night before. His voice cracked. "God, please," he whispered, hands clasped like he had nothing else left. "I messed up. I know I did. But don't let my mistake destroy what you gave me. Show me how to fix this. The right way." A week after Imani walked away, the house didn't feel like a home anymore. It was too quiet. No laughter from the kitchen, no playful arguments over the remote, no Imani humming while she cleaned like she owned the air in the room. Darius moved through the space, like a man living inside a consequence. He slept, but it wasn't rest. He ate, but it wasn't hunger. Everything tasted like regret. When Marcus pulled up that evening, Darius didn't even pretend he was okay. Marcus walked in, looked around once, then looked straight at Darius. "You look like you lost your mind." "I lost my wife," Darius said, voice hoarse. Marcus's expression didn't soften. "No," he corrected. "You left a door open, and somebody walked through it. That's what happened." Darius flinched like the truth hit hard. "I didn't touch Jade. I swear." Marcus stepped closer. "I don't care if you touched her. You lied. You moved like a single man with a wife at home. That's the part you don't get to downplay." Darius rubbed his face, eyes wet. I just didn't want Imani stressing. Marcus shook his head. That's what weak men say when they don't want to face hard conversations. The words burned because they were true. The next day, Darius sat in Pastor Elijah's office with his hands clasped like prayer was the only language he had left. Pastor Elijah listened quietly, then leaned forward, voice calm but heavy. Truth, he said, boundaries and time. Darius nodded slowly. Pastor Elijah continued, You can't rush healing, but you can prove repentance, not with flowers, not with speeches, with consistency and accountability. Darius swallowed. What do I do about Jade? Pastor Elijah's eyes sharpened. You shut every door, every window, every crack, no contact, no curiosity, no secret closure. You protect your marriage like it's worth something. Darius walked out of that office and did exactly that. He blocked Jade everywhere. Phone, social media, email, every path she could use to reach him. Then he took screenshots, not for drama, but for proof. No more, trust me. Not this time. That night he typed one message to Imani. No begging, no long paragraph, no excuses. I lied. I was wrong. You didn't deserve that. I'm getting help. I'm changing. I'll give you space, but I will always honor you. He hit send, then put his phone down like he didn't deserve to expect anything back. Across town, Imani sat at her desk with a journal open, pen moving slower than usual. She had promised herself she wouldn't let bitterness turn her heart hard. She cried when she needed to. She prayed when she couldn't sleep. She wrote down every lesson she refused to learn twice. She wasn't entertaining fake accounts. She wasn't chasing explanations. She was choosing healing, but Jade wasn't choosing to stop. Jade tried calling Darius from another number. Blocked. She messaged him from a new page. Blocked. She even sent a mutual friend to check on him. Failed. And when Jade realized she couldn't reach Darius directly, her smile turned cold. If I can't reach him, she whispered to herself, staring at Imani's profile like it was a target. I'll ruin her. 2 days later, Imani walked into work and felt the shift immediately. The stares were too quick, the whispers too quiet, and before she could even sit down, her manager appeared at her desk with a tight expression. Imani, he said, can you come to my office for a minute? Imani's stomach dropped, because whatever was waiting behind that office door didn't feel like a normal conversation. It felt like an attack. The moment Imani stepped into her manager's office, she knew this wasn't about performance. The blinds were half closed like somebody wanted privacy for what was about to happen. Her manager didn't offer her a seat right away. He just looked at his computer screen, then back at her, like he was deciding how to say something without setting off a bomb. Imani, he began carefully, I got an email this morning. It raised concerns. Imani's throat tightened. Concerns about what? He turned his monitor slightly. Her name was right there, bold letters in the subject line, followed by paragraphs that felt like gossip dressed up as professional warning. There were accusations about her marriage, hints that she was unstable, and a screenshot attached that looked like it came from a private message. Imani stared at it, heart pounding. This is not true. I'm not saying it is, her manager said, but his tone wasn't fully convinced either. But you know how these things work. Perception matters. People talk. Imani's hands curled into fists by her sides. Who sent it? It's anonymous, he said, but HR wants documentation. Imani swallowed hard, refusing to let tears embarrass her in that office. So what happens now? He sighed. For now, just keep your head down. Avoid distractions. If anything else comes in, we'll have to address it. Imani walked out with her back straight and her lungs barely working. At her desk, a woman popped up with a sympathetic expression and a voice sweet enough to sound sincere. Hey, girl, she said. You okay? That was Tanya Pierce, one of Imani's co-workers. Friendly, polished, and always the first person to know everybody's business before it even became business. Imani forced a small smile. I'm fine. Tanya tilted her head. I heard you got called in. You know folks be messy, but if you need anything, I'm here. The words sounded supportive, but the way Tanya's eyes searched Imani's face felt like curiosity wearing a nice outfit. Imani nodded. Thank you. As Tanya walked away, Imani noticed something that made her stomach twist. Tanya didn't just go back to her desk. She went straight into another co-worker's space, leaned in, and whispered something with a hand covering her mouth, like it was too juicy to say out loud. Imani's chest burned. She picked up her phone and called Keisha the second she got to the break room. Keisha answered on the first ring. Friend, what happened? Imani's voice shook despite her effort. They emailed my job. Somebody sent lies to my manager. Keisha went silent for 1 second. Then her tone sharpened. That's not random. That's targeted. Imani swallowed. What do I do? First, breathe, Keisha said. Second, don't start spiraling. Forward that email to me. Everything. Screenshots, times, names. We're not guessing. We're tracking. Imani forwarded the email with trembling fingers. Then she stepped into the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and finally let her eyes water. She didn't sob, she didn't crumble, but she whispered a prayer anyway. God, cover me, because I can't fight lies with emotions. That evening, Loretta came by without warning. She didn't ask for details. She just pulled Imani into a hug that felt like safety. And when Imani finally told her what happened, Loretta's eyes filled, not with fear, but with fire. Baby, she said, brushing Imani's cheek, we're going to pray. We're not letting the enemy turn your name into a weapon. Later that night, Darius found out. Not from Imani, she was still too hurt to call him. He found out because Marcus called him with a voice like thunder. Your wife is being attacked at work. Darius went still. What? Not your ex calling, not a rumor, her job. You understand how serious that is? Darius's jaw clenched so tight it ached. He grabbed his keys without thinking, heart pounding like war drums, because whatever Jade started had officially gone too far. And the next morning, just as Imani walked into her workplace trying to act like she wasn't bleeding inside, Darius King stepped through the front entrance, focused, calm, and not playing anymore. The following morning, Imani froze the second she saw Darius at the entrance. Not because she didn't recognize him, because she did. Too well. The line of his shoulders, the set of his jaw, the way his eyes swept the lobby like he was scanning for danger. He looked like a man walking into a fight he refused to lose. Imani's first instinct was anger. Her second was fear. Because if he was here, it meant the problem wasn't shrinking. It was growing. Darius, she said low as she approached him, keeping her voice controlled. What are you doing here? He turned toward her, face softening for a split second. I came because you shouldn't have to stand in this alone. Imani's eyes flashed. You don't get to decide that after what you did. Darius didn't flinch. He nodded once like he deserved that. I know. But this is bigger than feelings now. Somebody is trying to ruin your name. Imani's throat tightened. You think I don't know that? Before Darius could respond, Tanya appeared like she had been waiting for this moment, her expression painted in concern. Well, wow, Tanya said, voice sweet. Is everything okay? Do we need to call security? Imani's gaze flicked to Tanya, sharp, suspicious, tired. We're fine. Darius's eyes narrowed slightly, but he kept his tone calm. I'm her husband. Tanya's smile wavered for a blink. Oh, okay, people talk. You know how it is. And just like that, Tanya slipped away, already typing on her phone like she couldn't wait to report what she'd just seen. Imani watched her go, chest tightening. "That right there," she muttered. "That's the kind of concern that spreads poison." Darius lowered his voice. "Keisha sent me the email screenshots. Whoever did this is moving bold." Imani's eyes widened. "Keisha sent you?" "She did," Darius said. "And I'm glad, because I'm done guessing. I'm done letting Jade, or whoever, control the story." Imani swallowed hard, fighting the urge to break. "It was Jade," she said. "I feel it." Darius nodded. "Then we prove it." That afternoon, a new mess dropped like a bomb. A leaked voicemail started circulating, passed from phone to phone like gossip candy. The voice sounded like Darius, low and intimate, saying a woman's name like it meant something. It didn't say anything explicit, but it didn't need to. It was suggestive enough to feed doubt. Imani listened once, then again. Her stomach twisted. Her hands went cold. Because the voice, God help her, it could have been him. She looked up at Darius, and something in her eyes cracked. Darius held his hands up immediately. "That is not me." Imani's voice shook. "It sounds like you." "I know," he said, stepping closer, careful not to touch her. "But I didn't do that. I swear on everything. That's a setup." Imani swallowed. "How do I know?" Darius didn't argue. He didn't get defensive. He did the one thing Imani didn't expect. He offered his life. "My phone," he said, pulling it out. "My location history, my passwords, counseling, Pastor Elijah, whatever you need. No more secrets. I'm giving you transparency because you deserve certainty." Imani stared at him, breathing hard. Later that evening, Pastor Elijah agreed to host a sit-down. Strict boundaries, no chaos, no yelling, just truth. Darius wanted it documented. Imani wanted clarity. Keisha wanted justice. And Jade wanted control. But in her hunger to win, she made a mistake. During a call meant to explain herself, Jade said one detail wrong, too specific, too confident, like she knew exactly when Imani's manager got the email. Keisha went quiet, then smiled slowly, because Jade didn't realize what she'd just done. She didn't just threaten their marriage, she exposed herself. And before the night ended, Keisha texted Imani one sentence that made Imani's heart pound like a warning bell. "I got proof. It's her." The following morning, Keisha didn't call. She pulled up. Imani opened the door and barely had time to speak before Keisha marched inside like she owned the hallway. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp, the kind of sharp that meant somebody was about to get exposed. Keisha dropped her bag on the couch and pulled out her laptop. "Sit," she said. Imani's heart thudded. "Keisha, what did you find?" Keisha turned the screen toward her. "Receipts," she said simply. "Screenshots, timelines, links, and a pattern so loud it's basically screaming." Imani leaned in. There were screenshots of fake accounts, different names, same writing style, the same emojis, the same phrases, a timeline that matched perfectly with the day Jade randomly showed up, the day the photo appeared, the day the anonymous email hit Imani's job. Keisha even had a screenshot of Jade slipping up, saying a detail she shouldn't have known unless she was the one pressing send. Imani's mouth went dry. "Oh my God!" Keisha nodded. "Not oh my God, it's I told you." Imani covered her mouth with her hand, eyes burning. "So I'm not crazy?" "You were never crazy," Keisha said firmly. "You were being targeted." For a moment, Imani just sat there, staring at the screen like the proof was a mirror reflecting all the nights she'd doubted herself. Then her face changed, hurt turning into something steadier. Resolve. Her phone buzzed, a message from Tanya. "Hey sis, just checking on you. You good?" Imani looked at Keisha. "That's Tanya. She's been acting weird." Keisha's eyes narrowed. Let me see. Imani handed her the phone. Keisha scrolled, then snorted. She's too curious, too present. That's not concern. This is investigation. Imani swallowed. You think she's involved? I don't think, Keisha said, already standing. We're about to know. Later that afternoon, Imani walked into work with her head up and her stomach tight. She didn't rush to her desk. She went straight to Tanya's area and leaned in, voice calm. Tanya, she said, can I ask you something? Tanya smiled like she wasn't nervous. Sure, girl. Imani held up her phone. Why would an anonymous email about my marriage include details only someone around me would know? Tanya's smile froze for half a second, just long enough. I don't know, Tanya said quickly. People are weird. Imani nodded slowly. Yeah, people are. She walked away without pushing further, but now she knew. The reaction was enough to plant certainty. Somebody close was leaking information. Maybe Tanya, maybe someone else, but the snake was in the grass. That evening, Darius arrived at Pastor Elijah's office, with Marcus at his side. His face was serious, eyes tired, but his voice was steady. Imani walked in a few minutes later. She didn't sit next to Darius at first, but she didn't avoid him either. Pastor Elijah folded his hands. We're here for truth, he said, looking from Imani to Darius. Not blame, not performance. Truth. Darius swallowed. I lied, he said immediately, and that was wrong. I own that. I should have told you the moment Jade called. I should have protected you with honesty, not secrecy. Imani's eyes stung, but she kept her voice controlled. I still love you, she admitted softly. That's the problem. Love makes people hope when they should run. Darius shook his head. Don't run. Not yet. Let me do this right. Imani inhaled. Counseling, she said. Strict boundaries, total transparency, and if I feel even a shadow of deception again, I'm gone. Darius nodded without hesitation. Done. Pastor Elijah's gaze was firm. Then you both fight the real enemy, division. Just as the meeting ended, the office door opened, and Jade walked in like she belonged there. She smiled at Imani first, slow, smug, and fearless. Then she looked at Darius. If you marry him, Jade said, voice low and poisonous, I'll ruin you. A week after Jade walked into that office like she owned the air, Imani's fear started turning into something else. Clarity. Because when a woman threatens you to your face, you stop pretending the problem is miscommunication. You stop giving the benefit of the doubt to people who live off chaos, and you definitely stop letting panic lead your marriage by the nose. Imani sat across from Darius at the dining table, a notebook open between them like they were signing a new contract on their future. Her voice was calm, but it had steel in it. We're not doing halfway anymore. Darius nodded once. Never again. Imani tapped the pen on the paper. Rule 1, honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Agreed, Darius said immediately. Rule 2, transparency, passwords, location, open phones. Not because I want control, because we're rebuilding trust. Darius pushed his phone across the table without hesitation. You can have everything. Rule 3, counsel, Imani continued. Pastor Elijah, therapy, accountability. Darius's eyes softened. I'm in. Imani held his gaze. Rule 4, 0 contact with Jade. No replies, no curiosity, no closure. If she pops up, we document and involve witnesses. Darius's jaw tightened. 0 contact. For the first time in a long time, Imani exhaled like she could breathe. Then we're united, she said quietly. We won't be divided. Darius reached for her hand slowly, asking with his eyes before his fingers touched. When she didn't pull away, relief flickered across his face like sunlight. That same evening, Marcus and Keisha met them outside a quiet coffee spot, the kind of place where conversations could stay private, but still have witnesses. Darius wanted the confrontation clean. No yelling, no scenes, no confusion. When Jade arrived, she came smiling, dressed sharp, hair laid, confidence loud. She looked at Imani like she was amused. Then she looked at Darius like she was entitled. "Wow," Jade purred. "So we doing meetings now?" Darius didn't smile. "We're doing boundaries." Jade's eyes narrowed. "You're letting her run you." Imani didn't flinch. She spoke softly, but her words were direct. "No. He's choosing peace, and you're mad because you can't control it." Jade's smile twitched. "Control? Please, I'm just telling the truth." Keisha let out a short laugh. "Girl, you wouldn't know the truth if it slapped you with a church fan." Jade's gaze snapped to Keisha, irritation flaring. "This is between me and him." Marcus stepped forward, voice low and warning. "It stopped being between you and him when you came for his wife." Darius held up his phone. "We have proof you created fake accounts and pushed rumors to Imani's job. We're documenting everything." For the first time, Jade looked thrown off. Not scared, just exposed. Her mask slipped slightly, revealing something hard underneath. "You don't have proof," she snapped. Imani lifted her chin. "We do, and you're done." Jade's eyes flashed. "You think you won? You think being married makes you untouchable?" Darius's voice cut through, final. "Jade, this is your last warning. Do not contact me again. Do not contact my wife. Do not come near our lives. If you do, we take the next steps." Jade stared at him, and the obsession showed, sharp, ugly, undeniable. "You'll regret this," she hissed, then spun away like she couldn't stand to be dismissed. When she left, Imani's knees felt weak, but she didn't fall. She looked at Darius. "Now show me you meant it." Darius swallowed, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "I've been planning this," he said quietly. "Not because I'm trying to fix things with a ring, but because I want to recommit to you with witnesses, with truth." Imani's eyes filled. "Darius." He opened the box. "Will you choose me again, in front of everybody who loves us?" Imani laughed through tears. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." Across the street, half hidden in her car, Jade watched the moment like it was poison. Her hands tightened on the steering wheel, and her smile returned, slow and dangerous, because she wasn't done. The following weeks moved fast, like joy was finally rushing back into the spaces fear had tried to occupy. Imani didn't call it a second wedding, even though it felt like one. It was a recommitment ceremony, a public promise after a public storm. Something clean, something intentional, a day where love stood up straight and said, "We survived." Darius was all in, booking the venue, calling family, making lists like he was rebuilding a kingdom. And Imani, for the first time in a long time, let herself get excited without flinching. Keisha stayed on her like a protective shadow. "I'm your maid of honor, head of security, and lead investigator," she announced one evening while they looked at decor options. "Anybody act funny, they getting escorted out by me and prayer." Imani laughed. "You can't escort people with prayer." Keisha pointed a finger. "Watch me." Marcus took Darius aside more than once, checking him like a coach. "No weak moments," he warned. "No private conversations. No mysterious calls. You're leading with truth now." Darius nodded every time. "I know." Pastor Elijah also required a pre-ceremony counseling session. No excuses, no shortcuts. Sitting across from them in his office, he spoke calmly. "This is not just about romance," he said. "This is warfare. Anything worth building will be tested. Your job is to stay united." Imani squeezed Darius's hand. Darius squeezed back. They were ready. Or so they thought. Because 2 days before the ceremony, Imani's phone started buzzing with messages from numbers she didn't recognize. "Look what your husband did. Ask him about Jade. You really think you're special?" Then came the screenshots, fake messages between Darius and someone saved as Jade, full of flirtatious lines and secret meetups. The timestamps were suspicious, but the words were designed to sting. Imani's stomach flipped. For a second, that old fear tried to rise again. The fear that peace was an illusion and love was just a slow betrayal. Darius noticed her face immediately. "What is it?" Imani handed him the phone, breathing hard. "It's happening again." Darius read the messages, and his expression went stone cold. Not guilty, not panicked, angry. "This is fake," he said, voice firm, "and I'm not letting it touch us." Imani's eyes filled. "How do I know?" Darius didn't argue. He opened his own phone, pulled up his call logs, his messages, his location history, and handed it to her like an offering. "Because I promised you transparency," he said, "and I'm keeping it." Imani's hands trembled as she scrolled. No secret conversations, no hidden calls, nothing that matched the lie being pushed. Keisha arrived 10 minutes later, already ready to fight. "Send me everything," she said, taking screenshots like she was building a case file. "Because whoever doing this is desperate." Marcus came too, jaw tight. "This is her last move," he muttered. "She's trying to ruin the day." Pastor Elijah prayed with them right there in the living room, not loud, not theatrical, just steady. "Fear is not your leader," he said. "Truth is." The day of the ceremony arrived bright and beautiful. Imani stood in her dress, heart pounding, but her face glowing. Darius waited at the front, eyes locked on the entrance like he was waiting for his future to walk in. And just as the music started, a commotion rose near the back. A woman's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Stop this!" Imani's breath caught. She turned, and there was Jade, trying to push her way forward, eyes wild, confidence cracking under obsession. Before she could take another step, Keisha moved like lightning, blocking her path. Marcus stepped in too, and in front of everyone, family, friends, witnesses, Jade was stopped, exposed, and escorted out, her mask fully torn off. Imani's chest rose and fell, tears threatening. Darius walked to her, took her hands, and whispered, "Look at me, we made it." Imani nodded, voice shaking as she leaned closer. "We made it. But will peace last?" The following morning, the house felt different. Not because the furniture changed, not because the walls suddenly became new, but because the heaviness that had been sitting in the corners, quiet, stubborn, unseen, finally lifted. Imani woke up before Darius and lay there for a moment, listening to the calm. No buzzing phone, no anxious thoughts racing in circles, just soft sunlight spilling across the sheets and the steady sound of her husband breathing beside her. Darius shifted, half asleep, and reached for her like it was muscle memory. His hand found her waist, pulled her close, and his voice came out low and sleepy. You up already?" Imani smiled. "Yes." He cracked one eye open. "Why?" Imani shrugged. "Because I can." Darius hummed, then rested his head right back on her chest, like he did so many nights before, like it was his favorite place in the world. He went still for 2 seconds, then smiled. "Your heartbeat," he murmured, still calling my name. Imani gasped in fake outrage and shoved his forehead. "Boy, my heartbeat is telling you to get off me before I start charging rent again." Darius sat up fast, acting offended. "Rent? After all I done been through? After I fought demons and fake accounts and surprise guest appearances?" Imani laughed, but the laugh carried something deeper now. Relief, gratitude, a softness that had been bruised but not broken. Darius scooted closer, eyes serious for a moment. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Imani's smile faded just a little. "I'm okay, and I'm still healing," she admitted. "Some things don't disappear overnight." Darius nodded. "I understand." Imani looked down at his hand wrapped around hers. "But I'm proud of us," she said softly. "We didn't let the enemy make us strangers." Darius kissed her knuckles. "I'm proud of you," he replied. "You didn't let fear turn you bitter. You stood strong." They got out of bed and moved into their day like a team. In the kitchen, Darius tried to make breakfast and nearly burned the toast. Imani clowned him for it, and he clowned her right back. "You laughing now?" he said, waving the spatula. "But you the same woman who once seasoned chicken like you was scared of flavor." Imani scoffed. "That was one time." "One time too many," Darius said, dead serious, and Imani burst out laughing so hard she had to lean on the counter. Later, while they cleaned up, Darius surprised her by grabbing a chair and pulling it behind her. "Sit," he said. Imani blinked. "Why?" Darius held up a comb like a trophy. "Because I'm taking these braids down, and don't argue with me." Imani's eyes widened, then softened. "You learned for real." Darius smirked. "I learned because I love you. Also because I like being in your business." Imani laughed again, shaking her head, and as he carefully worked through her hair, she realized something. Love wasn't always fireworks. Sometimes love was patience, honesty, service, and the courage to protect what matters. That evening, Imani sat with her journal and wrote the lesson she wished every woman and man could understand. Moral and educational lesson. Love isn't proven by big speeches. It's proven by consistency. A lie can open doors you never meant to open. So choose truth, even when it's hard. Set boundaries, because peace doesn't protect itself. Not everyone from your past returns with good intentions. Some return with plans. And the strongest marriages aren't the ones that never face storms. They're the ones where two people keep choosing each other through the storm. Imani closed her journal, looked at Darius across the room, and smiled. She didn't marry a fairy tale prince. She married her best friend. And that, more than anything, was the kind of love that lasted. At the end of this story, one lesson stands tall. Love that lasts is not built on feelings alone. It is built on truth, boundaries, and daily commitment. Darius learned that even a small lie can open a big door, and Imani learned that forgiveness does not mean tolerating disrespect. When a couple chooses honesty, seeks wise counsel, and protects their home from outside access, the marriage becomes stronger than the storm. Not everyone from the past returns with good intentions. Some return with plans, so protect your peace. Now let's talk, family. Who was your favorite character in this story? Imani, Darius, Keisha, Marcus, Loretta, or Pastor Elijah? Tell me who you loved the most and why. And I want to hear your real experiences too. Have you ever faced a situation like this in your marriage or relationship? An ex causing trouble or trying to return? What did you do and how did you handle it? Also, let's be honest. Was the ex's actions justified in any way, or was it pure wickedness? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And finally, family, this is Mr. Hope. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.